Okay, Mr. Watson here, and in this video we're going to look at aggression. So aggression in sport. Now, aggression um, is a term that gets used casually and often not appropriately according to its definition, and then that brings on another problem with there's a few various definitions regarding aggression. So what we're going to do for the syllabus is we're looking at aggression and making a distinction between aggression that's desirable and that which is unacceptable. Okay. Now, one thing that is agreed is that in aggression, there's an intent to harm. So we're going with the definition. Something you'll probably want to make note of is aggression is intent to harm outside the rules of the game, sport, the activity. Okay, so in that picture there, I've got Zinedine Zidane, and quite in a famous incident in football, receives comments from the opponent and he headbutts him in the chest. Now, headbutting someone in the chest is not in the rules of football, and also he did it to hurt the player. Okay, that's why he did it. So there's an intent to cause harm, and it was definitely outside the rules of football. So that is what we would say is aggression. Now, obviously, in sports, we might need to use forceful behaviour, and even in football, such as the shoulder tackle, the shoulder barge, which is coming under debate now as well. But we do need to use some forceful behaviour. So what we're looking to achieve is something called assertion. So forceful behaviour within the laws of the event. Okay, so I've got a picture of a rugby tackle then, and rugby players, when they go in for the tackle, they're not taking it easy on each other. They're going in with force and they're looking to make impact on the player. And that's basically so the player knows, whoa, I'm in a game here. Okay, so it can be used for tactically, like psychological advantage, etc. So this is why, but we know this is assertion, or it's commonly known as channeled aggression. So if you can see someone's getting a little bit frustrated, might be looking to do something, you're looking for them to channel it into assertion and do things which are legal within the game. Okay? So, what are the causes of aggression? Now, I'm going to name some here, and there are a lot. There are a lot. So, there'll be, I think, more. I'm just going to list 6. Okay? So, showing loyalty or seeking revenge. So, again, another picture from football. Often, you might see something in the game, such as a harmful tackle, or two players go head to head, and then the next thing you see, is a bit of like a mini brawl, and players are showing loyalty to the guy that's mainly involved there. Okay. On the other hand, is you might receive a bad tackle, and then that's all you can focus on. So the rest of the game, you're trying to seek revenge. So you've got this aggressive behavior ready, and you're going to act. Okay, you've got this frustration, you're going to act. So you're trying to seek revenge on what's happened. Crowd enticement. Okay, sometimes in sport the crowd can be brutal. They can throw objects, they can say meanful and hurtful things to the players, and often, everyone has that tipping point, and sometimes players can become aggressive because of the crowd. Living up to expectations, sometimes coaches can put on a lot of pressure. Come on, you've got to be doing this, you should be doing that. Why haven't you done that? Why have you done that? And you feel like you need to play catch up to them expectations of the coach, and that might cause you to do an aggressive act, okay? Or the coach might simply expect you to constantly and consistently display forceful behavior, and that might just lead into aggression, and you might end up trying to cause harm on an opposing player because you've got frustration yourself. Biological, so this could be genetics, okay, passed on down. It'll link to one of our theories later. Amount of testosterone in puberty, etc. Okay. In the environment, getting too hot. So the environment can play a factor, and there have been studies in this in research that suggest that people get more aggressive when they're in a hot environment. They get flustered, they're sweating, they're really hot, they feel uncomfortable, and it takes this tiniest of thing to annoy them and cause an act of aggression. And finally, poor role models. Obviously, we all watch sport on the TV. Doesn't even have to be sport, but you'll watch people, and if there's people who show aggressive behavior and you think that's acceptable, that makes you look cool, you may pick up on that. So a bit of Bandura here. Now, the other causes of aggression obviously could be poor decisions from officials and frustration. We're going to talk about that in one of our theories, but there are lots of other causes. But just to name a few here. So let's go on to our first theories, and there are going to be 4 theories today. Okay, and the first one is instinct theory of aggression. And this is, if we reflect back on all of the other units we've done through this would be more of like a trait theory. So our keywords are going to come up. So what this instinct theory suggests is that aggression is the result of this inherent drive within us. Just like we all get hungry, just like we all get thirsty, this theory suggests that we all get aggressive. It's just within us. Okay, so a bit like the Charles Darwin, okay, survival of the fittest, and all of this. Okay, so this theory is based on a nature approach. It argues that aggressive behavior is innate, genetically inherited, and as a result, inevitable, meaning it's going to happen anyway. So again, all of the similar words that come up in personality, anxiety, etc., etc. Okay, so you can view the instinct theory as a trait. Okay, so we had Freud who looked into this. Okay, and what he suggested that is that this aggression builds up and it must be released. We cannot keep it within ourselves, otherwise, it will damage our well being. So, in order to maintain our well being, we must release this aggression. So, this is what Freud was saying. And then Lorenz came along and said that this aggression can be directed towards another person. However, you could do it through a more acceptable behavior, such as sport. Okay, you could release this aggression through sport and then you'll feel good. And this was known as a catharsis. Okay, so he took it a little bit further and said that sport provides a vehicle to release of aggression. Okay, so this is what the instinct theory was mainly saying. Okay, however, psychology is coming with criticisms. So early hunters were not these warriors, survival of the fittest. They were just hunter gatherers. So you needed to survive, but they weren't just out there battling each other. Human aggression is often not spontaneous, so often aggression gets linked to just something will upset you and you quickly react. Sometimes human aggression can be planned. Human aggression is often learned and linked to culture. So we've got Bandura here with social learning. And aggressive sports players don't show the same aggressive characteristics away from their sport. So if it's in us, an inherent drive, we're always going to be aggressive. But actually, we're saying some people aren't. They're only aggressive when they play sport. So they're flipping it and saying sport might not be that good. Sport causes aggression. Okay, so let's move on to the second theory. And this is the frustration aggression hypothesis. Okay, so it's closely allied to the instinct theory, but there is more research to back this one up. Okay, so we have a drive to a goal, and what this means is just like achievement motivation. Your arousal, you have this state of readiness, you have a drive to succeed something. So that might be to score a layup in basketball. But then we get an obstacle, i.e., the defender. He's using a man marking strategy. We can't get rid of him. He's prevented us getting into the key and scoring the last 2 layups. So we have an obstacle here. And that obstacle is causing me to get frustrated for the reasons I've just said. I can't get past them. I can't score my layup. Okay. Now, this frustration and this hypothesis says, now I'm going to be aggressive. And as it's closely allied to the instinct theory, what it's suggesting is that I need to release this aggression. Okay? So, well, I've got 2 options here. So, option 1, success. I channel this aggression, okay, and I do assertive behavior. So, I do a forceful act but I do it within the laws of the game, and that causes success and catharsis. Okay, so I can choose to channel that aggression, assertion. I get success, catharsis. Okay, I feel much better. However, I may do an aggressive act which is against the laws of the game, and I get punished. I get a foul against me, puts my foul count up. The attacking charge was too aggressive, and I just get more frustrated. Okay, so what this is saying, just to summarize, is that frustration will always lead to aggression, because when you block our goals that we want to achieve, we'll just get more aggressive until we achieve them. However, there is an option that once you use this aggression and you channel it to assertion, you can reduce it, leading to catharsis. So, channeling aggression to assertion is the outcome we're looking for here. If you do an aggressive act, you're going to get punished and you'll get more frustrated. So, criticisms of this hypothesis: not all frustration leads to aggression. Some people can control their frustration. Not all aggressive behavior is caused by frustration, because some behaviors are learnt, again, Bandura. And it doesn't account for all situational factors or individual differences such as personality, etc. So there's a lot of things that they don't consider. They just say if you're frustrated, you'll have aggression and you need to release. Okay. Right, now we've got the aggressive cue hypothesis. So this was proposed by Berkowitz, and he said that when an individual is frustrated, there's an increase in arousal, and it causes a readiness to be aggressive. So as we know, with arousal, it causes a state of readiness to perform your activity. Okay, so this is saying that this causes a readiness to be aggressive. So let's have a look at this. So our goals are being blocked. So we still have a drive to achieve a goal, but they're being blocked. So as you can see, it's quite similar to frustration, aggression for now. Then we get frustration, again, similar to the last hypothesis. But what this is saying is that frustration increases our arousal. And in this case, if the arousal is not controlled, okay, it can lead to aggression or hopefully assertion. But what happens here with the aggression cue hypothesis, the clue being in the title, the cue, all right, there has to be something to trigger the aggression. If there's no aggressive cues present, unlikely to be aggressive. However, if there are aggressive cues present, aggression is likely. So the most common cue in life is probably the bull and the red cloth, so when they show the bull red, it causes aggressive. That revealing of the red blanket or cloth is the cue to be aggressive. So what cues do we have in sport? Now, if you watch any horror movie or thrillers, okay, if someone's burgling a house, quite often in the movies they have a baseball bat. So we have almost like this subconscious feeling that when you see a baseball bat, it's a cue to be aggressive. If you see someone wearing boxing gloves, you think they're going to punch something, because you can do it within the laws, but there are these cues that cause aggression. Okay, holding an object, things, the environment, the boxing ring itself. So what this hypothesis suggests is that if this cue is present, aggression can be likely. So a certain stimuli must be present. That's what makes it different to the last hypothesis. Okay. Now, the example I've gone for here is a harmful foul on a teammate. And this is where you could link it to showing loyalty. Now, let's just say in a football match, someone puts in an absolute leg breaker of a tackle. Now, that tackle, was intended to cause harm and potentially broke a player's leg. That, quite commonly in football, is a cue for all the other players to get aggressive. And the next thing you know, they're pulling by shirts, punches may be swung. So that harmful foul was the stimuli, okay? And the performer associates that cue with having to be aggressive, a bit like in ice hockey when sometimes players will start fighting, so their cue might have been an intent to harm in a tackle. So that tackle was there, cue to start fighting, but the teammates see a fight, and when they see a fight, they think they have to now be aggressive. So their cue was seeing their own teammate fighting, so they'll associate with that. Okay. And as you'll be pleased, the fourth and final, the social learning theory, very common. You'll have seen this. It's Bandura. Okay, so again, like the trait, similar words are going to come up. So Bandura said aggression is a learned response rather than instinctive. So the opposite. Okay. Now I've put an example there of Luis Suarez, a poor role model, and we'll come on to that in a moment. So what Bandura is saying is aggression can be learned by observing and copying others. So it could be teammates, coaches, role models. And we call this a vicarious experience. Okay, so this word has come up a lot again. You might not actually be an aggressive person, but you think that's the behavior that will get you accepted in society. So you live through the aggression of others, and what you do is you start being aggressive. You observe them and then you copy them. Okay, and the more significant that role model is, the more likely is you'll copy. However, he also said it can be encouraged through reinforcements, almost like this operant conditioning from AS level. And that can come from the coach. If your coach is on the sideline saying, be aggressive, he might really should be saying, be assertive in the laws of the game, but you might go and cause a harmful act, and then the next thing, you've been aggressive and it's being reinforced through the words of your coach. Okay. Now, Luis Suarez there, he bit this player in this example from football, and rightly so, got a very heavy ban, a punishment. Because if the governing bodies in the FA and they don't deal with things like this, there's going to be a lot of children thinking you can get away with biting someone when you're angry. So it's very important that poor examples are punished. But it's also highlighting that people are watching you. You need to be a role model because someone might observe and copy that behavior. So, just to summarize, if they see significant others being aggressive, or if their own aggression is reinforced by significant others, this is what the social theory is. Another example of that would be a fight on the school playground. Often you'll have people on the sides, again, it happens in movies, shouting, fight, 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 and then the fight gets worse because all you can hear is fight, so you start throwing haymakers from the hip, strategies out the window. Okay, so this is social learning theory. And the final thing Bandura said was people can learn aggressive behavior, they can learn non-aggressive tendencies, so you can learn the other way. Okay, so just to summarize, sorry this is a long video here. As always, you just pause, you can rewatch, you can go back. So if you are forgetting things, which is very likely right now, you can just pause and go back. So let's just finish with how do we eliminate these aggressive tendencies? From our last unit, in controlling anxiety, same here, imagery, deep breathing, count to 10. Okay, these are things that can help to relax yourself and really calm and help the situation. Remove the player. Now we're going to unpack this a little bit more. If you see someone getting overly aggressive, they're intending to harm, they're picking up fouls because it's outside the laws of the game, substitute them. Or change their role. You don't need to man mark that person now. We're going zone. Don't do it. The change in role might reduce their frustrations. Okay, and you've also got change their position on the field. Put them on the right hand side. If you're having problems on the left wing, you want to keep them on the field. Put them on the right. Okay. Reward assertiveness, so operant conditioning, again, using the other theories, okay? When you see your players in training or in the game being assertive, they're being forceful, they're setting an example, because your coach will encourage assertive behavior because it's legal and it can work as a psychological effect. If you're being forceful and intimidating the other team, but it's within the laws of the game, there's many advantages to doing it, so reward it. And then your players will, oh, he's being rewarded for that. I best start being assertive. Okay? Bandura. If people learn, if they observe and copy others, will show non-aggressive role models and show role models that might be assertive or show role models who are calm. Okay, use what Bandura is saying, and you can use that to try and eliminate aggressive tendencies. Give responsibility. So, classic example, Wayne Rooney. He was always a red card waiting to happen as a young player. Well, not always. That's probably harsh, but he did like a rash tackle. Got made captain of Manchester United, and the responsibility made him step up. Went on to be a fantastic captain of the club, um, and that responsibility knew that he was a role model for the supporters of Man United, the players in his own dressing room, and he needed to act responsibly. And finally, a bit like the reward assertiveness, actually punish aggressive behaviour. So I put a picture of money there. A common one is fine them a week's wages. Okay, if they've got a red card and cost you games, okay, fine them. You could also, a common one in football is asking them to train with the reserves. Okay, that's a harsh one, but also gets the message across is you are not happy with their current behaviour. Or you could also just put them on the bench, put them as a substitute for the next game. Okay, so there's many ways you can punish aggressive behaviour. So again, there's more ways to eliminate aggressive tendencies, but these are some. Okay, folks, so apologies for the long video, but as always, you can pause and go through and make things from this. So hope you enjoyed it. Okay, thank you.